So please excuse the fan going on in the background. It is very hot in this house and we do not have AC, so we have to have fans running. Also, I am very sunburned, as you can tell on my chest. Today is Wednesday the 8th. It's officially my birthday, but the last few days I have been out of town. I went on a trip with Robert for my birthday, and yesterday was of course the only day I didn't wear sunscreen, so the entire tops of my arms from about the middle of my upper arm down to my wrist are burned. My chest is burned, like right behind my neck is burned, so I'm not in too much pain, but it does sting a little bit if I hit something on it, but I'm very, very red, as you can tell. Like, I think this is the most sunburned I've been in a very long time. Also, this morning I got myself a free iced coffee because it's my birthday, and Big B, if you guys don't have a Big B near you, it's awesome. It's way better than Starbucks, I think, to be completely honest. They're super, super awesome, but they do this thing where every year on your birthday you can get a free coffee. Doesn't matter what size, it's just, you know, a free coffee. One of the drinks I've been really getting recently whenever I go to Big B is their teddy bear, which is basically white chocolate and caramel, which is really, really awesome. It's very yummy. I actually have a package today I want to show you guys because I'm really excited about this. So a few weeks ago, a person I follow on Twitter was doing this like wish list kind of granting thing, saying like if you had a wish list you could send it to her and she would be picking a few people to send stuff out to, and she sent one to me because I said my birthday was coming up, and so she was really kind enough to send something my way. Unfortunately, it was supposed to get here like sometime last week, I think, or maybe the week before, but I forgot that my wish list still had stuff sent to my old apartment, so I didn't get here until today. But because it's my birthday, that makes me super happy. I actually have a present to unwrap on my birthday. So we're gonna open this up and see what they sent me, because I have no idea. They didn't tell me anything. They just wanted it to be a surprise, and I wanted it to be a surprise, truthfully. So let's see what I got. And I will also show you some things that I bought over the trip, because I did buy a few books at a couple different bookstores, and I'll tell you a little bit more about what exactly we did. But here we go. Okay. Ooh, I think I see what this is. So the note says, I absolutely love this book, from its characters to its content. I hope you do too, from Lindsay at Pawsome Reads. Thank you so much, Lindsay. And the book that she sent me was Every Last Word by Tamara Ireland Stone. This is one I remember, I think my sister read a while ago, and she really, really liked it. And so I've been wanting to get my hands on it and have my own copy. So this is really awesome. Thank you so, so much, Lindsay. I will leave her Twitter down in the description for you guys to check her out, as well as her YouTube channel. She's very, very awesome, very sweet, and was so helpful with helping me figure out where this package was, because when it got to be about a week, 2 weeks almost, I was really concerned that something got lost in the mail, and she was so kind to help me with figuring out the tracking number and all of that stuff so that I could figure out where the heck this package was. And it turned out it went to my old apartment at first, and that was not good. So now I'm going to show you guys a couple books that I got. I also got presents for my parents and stuff. So one of the places we went was Sault Ste. Marie. So we went up toward the UP. The UP is basically the top half of the state of Michigan, because most people know Michigan as a state in the US is separated in like two parts. We have a lower state and we have the upper state, which everyone calls the Upper Peninsula and Lower Peninsula kind of thing. So Robert and I stayed in St. Ignace, which is just across the Mackinac Bridge into the UP. It's basically like right there. And so the first night though, we went all the way over on Sunday night to an island called Drummond Island, which I've never heard of before, but it's pretty much like it's a little island. It's not really super busy. It's kind of one of those vacation islands, really, where there's a lot of lake houses and stuff like that. I'm sure if we had gone further inland, we would have seen more of that, but we basically went along the coast of it all the way over to the easternmost point that we could reach, which was really cool. That's all we did. We just drove around the island, which was really, really cool to see. It was very, very scenic and beautiful, and it was very quiet. Like, there wasn't really a whole lot of people out and about. So then on Monday, we actually went over to Munising, which is a town further into the UP, further north, and it is a area where we went to go see the Munising Falls and Pictured Rocks, which is a very, very popular tourist attraction in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And I had never been there myself. Robert hadn't either, but it is a great place to go if you want to go see Lake Superior, which is the northernmost lake attributed to Michigan, and it is the deepest lake that there is. It has like the largest depths out of all 5 of the Great Lakes, and I'd never been there, and it was so beautiful. It was absolutely gorgeous, and we ended up hiking about 4 miles across the falls and everything, and we got to see the lake, and we found this beautiful little private area. Almost, it wasn't necessarily private, but it was like this little space where it didn't seem like many people went to. We got to sit in the lake and have a beautiful, beautiful morning, and then we hiked about another 2 miles to get back to our car. A little more than that, probably another 4 miles or so to get back to our car, and it was just wonderful. It was so fun. And then later that day, we actually went, instead of going back to St. Ignace, which would have been basically going back south, we went kind of south and a little bit east over to Sault Ste. Marie, which is one of the border towns. So most people associate Michigan with Detroit as a kind of a border town between the U.S. and Canada. Sault Ste. Marie is another one because there's actually a Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, and there's a Sault Ste. Marie, Canada. And we actually got super close to the border of Canada. Like, we didn't actually go over it because we don't have our licenses that have that special passport aspect to it where we could get into Canada. And right now it's not a good idea for us to go into Canada with all of this COVID stuff. But we got super, super close. We actually got to see essentially the gap between Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan and Sault Ste. Marie, Canada. And we got to see some of like the hotels and stuff that are over on Canada's side, which was really, really cool to see. All of that is over by what are called the Soo locks, which are basically a set of lock systems that basically ships and freighters will pass through that are both for Canada and Michigan. And we went into a little bookstore in Sault Ste. Marie that I was really excited about. So I got 4 books at that bookstore, and it's called the Island Books and Crafts, I think, something like that. It is a cute, adorable little bookstore, and I think it's mostly used books, if I'm not mistaken. I think that you have mostly used books because that's what it essentially looked like. But then they also have like homemade crafts from tribal individuals from the area, kind of touristy kind of stuff that you can get if especially like you're coming over from Canada or something like that, or that you go up to Sault Ste. Marie to go across the border. It's very much a border town kind of thing where it's got a lot of those kind of touristy kinds of things. But yeah, so I got 4 books. 3 of them are by the same author because I really, really like his work. But those are by Colson Whitehead. I got Zone 1, The Noble Hustle, and The Intuitionist. I can't read apparently. So I got these 3 books by Colson Whitehead because I read The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead while I was in college, and I really, really liked his work. And I've also heard his newest release, I think it's called The Nickel Boys, is really, really good. I want to hold off on getting that one though until I read some more of his work so I can be a little bit more involved with it. But he's an amazing author. Like, with The Underground Railroad, it was basically a historical fiction with some kind of magical realism aspect to it, where most people know the Underground Railroad was a set of tunnels that were under the U.S. to transport slaves from place to place, especially from the south upwards toward the north, where they would be free, and even into Canada, where they would be considered free and they wouldn't have to be slaves anymore. But what Colson did was, in that book, he made a literal Underground Railroad where there was a train and everything, but kind of just to kind of give it a little bit more magical aspect to it, because it was very amazing what this Underground Railroad was able to do, and it followed a set of characters that were going on that Underground Railroad. So I don't know much about these ones, but I do think that they have similar elements to that, where they are kind of playing on magical realist ideas and then possibly having some historical context within them. So I'm very excited. Like I said, I really like Colson Whitehead's writing, and I'm excited to add these to my collection and then add these to my TBR for the month, which I'll get into in a minute is not really that expansive right now. I haven't really read much over the last few days. But the other book I did get at that bookstore in Sault Ste. Marie was Devil in the White City by Eric Larson. I also really, really like Eric Larson. If you are looking for a really great historical nonfiction author, this is the guy to go to. He has written so many different things, especially during about like the late 1800s, early 1900s, within like the first half of the 1900s, I think. I don't think he's written anything past 1950s, but This one in particular is dealing with essentially the World's Fair in 1893, where H.H. Holmes starts going around and murdering a bunch of people. But yeah, Erik Larson is a really great nonfiction author. I recently read his other book about the Lusitania, which was really, really interesting. It touched on a lot of different things about the politics of the world at that time and what exactly had happened leading up to the sinking of the Lusitania. So that was what I got when I was in Sault Ste. Marie. That was like basically the end of our day on Monday. And then Tuesday we went to Mackinac Island. This is the third time I've been there. Robert's second or third time. And I love going to the island so much. It is one of my favorite places in the world. Robert and I have decided that if we ever get super rich and want to retire, we are going to go live on Mackinac Island because it is beautiful. It is so wonderful, especially this time of year. But unfortunately, that was the day I got super sunburned because I forgot to put on sunscreen. But there is this really awesome little bookstore in there inside of the essentially part of the Lilac Hotel that is there, which is right in downtown. It is so nice. I go there every time that I am on the island because it's a bookstore. I have to always go into a bookstore wherever I go. But it is one of my favorites because it is also super, super packed with a bunch of like really cool new releases and things of that nature. And they also have a localized section for Michigan history and even a section for localized Michigan authors. So that's always really fun to go look at. But I decided I wanted to get a classic. I wanted to find a really nice classic because the classics they had there are in these really, really beautiful, kind of almost not quite leather, not quite rubber covers, and I had Robert pick out a classic that I didn't have. I got told him that if he'd get to pick, and if I already had it, I wouldn't get it, but if he picked one that I didn't have, I would get it. And so I ended up getting The Beautiful and Damned and Other Stories by F. Scott Fitzgerald. Now, I've never read F. Scott Fitzgerald except for The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, which I gave like 3 out of 5 stars, but that was because I feel like I can't really do classics, I think, on audiobook. I feel like that's really, really hard for me to do. So I think that from now on, what I'm going to do is really focus on classics in the physical sense or an ebook sense. I just can't do audiobook. It's very hard for me to follow those kinds of stories. But this is a collection of short stories, I believe, that F. Scott Fitzgerald had written. And it's in this really cool, like I said, not quite leather, not quite rubber cover. And so it's kind of like a paperback, like it's almost in like a paperback format where it's not like super like rock hard and it doesn't have a dust jacket, but it's got this really cool texture to it that I just really, really love. And they had several editions of classic books that were like this at the bookstore. And I just thought this was so cool. And plus I love this like almost blue-green font that they have right in here. And it's got a bunch of like quotes on here from the book over the whole thing. It's so, so neat. I'll see what they actually have in here. So they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stories, which one of them is The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, which is awesome. That means I can probably go back through and read that one again and actually see what I think of it, because I liked the idea of it, but I couldn't quite follow the whole story. But I remember the audiobook having been only like, I think maybe an hour or 2 at most, and so it's a very short story. I think that I could really read that again and see what I actually think of it and probably give it a better rating depending on what I think of it, because at the time I gave it a 3-star because I thought it was good, I thought it was interesting, but I couldn't quite follow along with it to the best of my ability. So that was the only other book that I got at vacation. I did buy a book for my dad, but that doesn't count because it's not for me. It was a gift for my father because I thought it was really cool. It was basically a memoir of one of his favorite actors from when he was younger, Val Kilmer. So this is gonna be a long clip anyway, so I figured I'll just talk about some other things. So as far as my reading, I have got through more of Crazy Rich Asians over the last couple of days. I'm currently on page 151, but I haven't really made much progress. I hadn't really had the time, honestly, to sit and read. I was so enraptured, truthfully. Like, I had planned on, at any point we were driving, that I was going to sit and read, but I could only read a chapter at a time, really, because I was so much more focused in watching the scenery of the UP, because I'd never seen it before, and especially when we were on Drummond Island, I really wanted to see what that was like. And then going through Sault Ste. Marie, I just didn't want to miss anything. Like, I really wanted to like take in all of the scenery and really like get involved with watching everything go by and all these things. So I didn't really pay attention to my book at all. And so I maybe have read like at the most probably 30 pages over the course of the last few days, but because I am back to work today, I am going to be trying to get through more of this on my other breaks. I'm on a break right now and should be finishing it up here soon, but I want to get through more of this because I do like it a lot. I really like what the story is doing, and I really think that I understand what the point of the story is, and I think that it might be possible that I have kind of an unpopular opinion on this, because I see the satire within the story, and I think that that is more than what a lot of other people who've read it have seen. I think a lot of people were really upset that it kind of seemed to be outlandish in terms of the representation, but I think that that is intentional because it's supposed to be a satire on the wealthy of especially Singapore, and I think a lot of people may have missed that in terms of what I think I remember about some of the reviews I had seen, but I really like it a lot. I think it's very, very fun, and it's just very drama filled, but that's kind of the point because it's supposed to be a satire on how ridiculous the wealthy of Singapore can be, and especially a lot of the cultural aspects that go along with being wealthy, like some of the nuances of how they view other people and how they view Americans and how they view, each other, all these different things. And then in terms of my writing, I haven't really done any writing since the first. I truly haven't, because I was not feeling well for a couple days. I was very sore and tired, and then this whole weekend I've just been like, I don't want to work, I don't want to do anything. I didn't even film videos on Saturday, so I'm very behind. But truthfully, I wanted to make this last weekend and Monday and Tuesday that I was on vacation. I really wanted to take it all in and experience it and not worry about all these things that I had going on in my life. And I feel like I did that. I feel like I actually took time for myself for the first time in a very, very long time. And it was absolutely amazing. I really have changed my perspective in a lot of ways with my life over the last few weeks, and I think that this vacation was definitely what I needed to really recenter myself and put myself in a better position where I can actually now make this next year of my life one of growth in so many other ways. I think that the last year that I've been alive, I've really had a lot of personal growth changes in terms of my mental state and how I view things, and kind of being able to let go of a lot of things. But I think especially now, there's still some things that I feel like I need to control all the time. And I think that the last few weeks I've really hit a wall where I was like, I need to stop doing all these different things, because if I stress out so much about all these things, I'm going to give myself a heart attack. I will die at a very young age if I do not get my shit together and stop worrying about all these really minuscule things. So you may see that I'm a little bit more sporadic with my content. I might not have as much as I did in June. I might not be posting as regularly as I do, but I'm gonna try to keep a schedule. But I've come to realize that I can schedule things all I want, but I can't always prepare for everything, and that's always been a huge issue for me. But truthfully, right now I am in a place where that's okay, and I plan on basically right now doing what I can. I'm gonna be filming stuff on Saturday here for next week, but all of my videos and stuff, I'm gonna have maybe one video out this week, which I'm gonna be editing tomorrow and hopefully uploading tomorrow. But even then, who knows? I really don't know, and I have no clue if everything's gonna work out the way that I might want. But that's gonna have to be okay, because that's just how life is sometimes. So anyway, that's I think all of the updates I have for you right now. I am going to get back to work here because I have to get back to doing my job now that I'm back for the first day since Friday. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't have really any big birthday plans today. I think Ryan had said that he wanted to buy me B-dubs for my birthday for dinner, which is really awesome. Love Buffalo Wild Wings. It's one of my favorite things ever. But I don't think we're really doing anything because, like I said, Robert and I got back last night, and I kind of want a nice, chill birthday. So please excuse the fan again. Hopefully you guys can still hear me. It is still very, very hot. It's still the same day. It is now about 10:18 in the evening, and it's still my birthday for the next less than 2 hours. But I am going to be finally getting back into reading Crazy Rich Asians today. I haven't read anything of it yet as of today. I don't know. I wanted to just watch YouTube videos after I talked to you guys last this morning. Today, I didn't really do much for my birthday, truthfully. Robert made dinner. That was kind of it. We watched X-Files, the first episode of the 3rd season. we kind of just sat around and talked and cuddled and just had a nice time. I got the house cleaned up a little bit. That made me feel a lot better. I got a lot of stuff taken care of in here. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I haven't really done a whole heck of a lot. Oh, I did play Stardew Valley a little bit and Animal Crossing for a little while today. I basically got the stuff I need for the new update for Animal Crossing, but I'm going to actually properly play tomorrow with the new update with the deep sea diving and all that stuff and getting some stuff with that. So I have like a whole checklist of stuff I want to do tomorrow with Animal Crossing. I do plan on getting back into writing hopefully sometime this week. I think maybe Friday or Saturday. I'm not really certain what exactly I want to do. I kind of have been leaving this writing project of mine that I've had, the Project Mummy project that I've had for NaNoWriMo, as kind of a when I feel inspired to write certain pieces on it. Like when I first wrote stuff on the first, I had this very particular scene in my head that I really wanted to write down because it was a very integral scene for this character. This is kind of one of those stories where I think that the story is going to come in bits and pieces to me, whereas the last book that I've been working on, my mystery novel that I've been putting through with beta readers the last couple of months and like slowly hearing back from them, that one was very much from start to finish. I knew how I wanted the story laid out. I knew how I wanted the scenes to what they wanted them to depict. By the time I finished the original outline for it, though, and had started to go on the first draft, a lot of things changed. Like in the middle of me writing the first draft, I changed a lot of things because I didn't care so much for the way I had written my outline. And as I kind of started pantsing my way through the story itself, I found that there were things that I actually wanted to bring more to light as opposed to what I had originally done in my outline, which is very common for me because I've said it before. I said in my last blog that when it comes to planning and outlining, I'm very much a plotter. I feel like I have to have a game plan going into these stories. With this outline for Project Mummy, basically I had a very rough outline. I had a list of my characters that I wanted, like my main characters. I had, information about them. I had a kind of brief synopsis of what exactly I wanted the story to kind of follow along with. And then I had some very brief notes for each, mostly the acts of the stories, which I didn't even do this with the last book, with the mystery novel I've been working on, is I didn't even separate the story into acts like most people do, where you have 3 acts for the story and you fit your story within those acts. I didn't do that for the murder mystery novel. It was very much, I had actually like a chapter thing where I was like, okay, in each chapter I want a specific scene, and it ended up being about 40 chapters, which it still is to this day. I still have made it to work out to be that way, even with the changes I made post that first outline I ever did for it. This book, though, the process is so very, very different because even from the outline standpoint, the outline itself is kind of bare bones because I kind of have an idea of what I want to do with it. But this is a story that I think is going to take so much more time because it's not my main focus, for one, and for two, there's a lot of research that has to go into it before I feel like I can make a much more comprehensive and detailed outline for it, because I have to do a lot of research on a very important historical figure that is a character in the story. They play a huge part in the story, and in order for me to feel like I am giving the story the best chance it can, I want to do as much research as I can on that historical figure to make them the most representable version of that historical person as I can. Because essentially what I will say about it is that this historical figure is the antagonist of the story, and so in order for me to make the story the way I want it to, I have to make sure I know enough about the historical figure themselves so that I can play on the things that I learn about them in the actual story itself for themselves as the antagonist. Because if I don't do that, I feel like I do a real disservice to using that historical figure. I could really just place any random person in there, but the person that is the antagonist, that is based on the historical figure, is very significant. They have a very significant aspect to them that plays into their whole motivation and plays into their whole story arc in the actual thing itself. I do plan on this one to be a standalone standalone. I do not want this to be more than really one book, because I don't think that this is I don't believe it's one of those stories that can continue on for more than one book, and to try and make a second or third book off of it would just be really kind of redundant and unnecessary. So this is very much a standalone kind of story, whereas my murder mystery story is more of a duology, because there is a second side to the whole story that does get played into more in the second book that I haven't even really planned out yet, but I know what I want to do with it once it comes to it. I just know that that one would have to be a duology, whereas Project Mummy would have to be a standalone, because to make it more than one book, it's just kind of overkill, and it would be redundant, and it wouldn't be very fun as a series as opposed to it being a standalone. I think it's much more effective in that kind of a sense. I don't even truly know necessarily where to go with this one, because like I said, the first part of it I wrote on the first was a very, very particular scene with my main character and her partner in this story that is it was very romantic, very touching, but you did see some kind of tensions popping up a little bit. They weren't necessarily being talked about, but there were some issues that you could see, some tension between the two that would definitely be coming up later within the story. And I just don't have any particular scenes right now that are coming to mind as easily as that one did. And that's kind of why I feel like this is one of those touch and go kind of projects. Like, this is I'm really taking NaNoWriMo to just be able to give myself the ability to schedule out some time to write and kind of see where it goes. If I don't write anything, that's fine. If I write 100 words, cool, because at least I'll have something down on the page. But this is one of those projects where I think I'm just gonna really have to see where it goes from without the historical aspect. Like, I may just write my scenes with my main character as opposed to writing both the scenes with the main character and then the ones with the historical figure. I think that's going to just be the easiest thing for me to do for this particular project. I don't think that this is something that would happen for every project I'm involved in, but for this particular project with the specific things that have to go on within the story, this makes the most sense. And it's interesting because it is something I didn't ever expect to happen. I thought I would be one of those writers where every project has the same process, where, I have the same kind of way that I do things. But I've realized as time goes on that my process, just like everything else in my life, constantly changes, because as I adapt and as I learn new skills and new tricks and things of that nature and see other people's experiences with what they're doing and how they're doing these processes, I'm picking up on these things and therefore adapting my process to better fit what I need per project kind of thing. My life has been very much the last couple of years all about adaptation, and this next year of my life, one of my big words that I'm going to try to use as kind of a motivation kind of word, or what do they call it? It's kind of like an intentional word of some kind, is adaptation, because my whole life I have stuck myself in this little box where I just don't go outside of it. I have a certain set of rules that I follow, and that's it, and no one can deter me from that. That has basically been my whole life going into the now 23rd year of my life. I've been alive now for 23 years, and so what I want to do leading up to my 24th years, I want to make this next year a year where I continuously learn to adapt, and I continue to push myself away from the limits of that box I set myself in, and pushing myself to do things that I typically wouldn't do. And I think that this is another really good way. I think that this is one way that kind of is manifesting, in a sense, where I am learning to write differently. I am learning to write what comes naturally and letting it happen, as opposed to stifling myself to writing in one specific way, because that is not going to do me any good. I know that if I was to do anything other than letting myself just naturally write the way that this story wants to be written, I would be stuck in a box and I would feel hopeless. This is why a lot of the story ideas I had growing up never came to fruition, because I stifled myself with my writing process with them. I stifled myself by putting myself in this little box that I couldn't go away from, and that is why so many of the stories I had tried writing when I was younger, when I was like a junior, senior in high school, before I started my murder mystery story, that they never came to see the light of day, because I never gave them the real chance. I never gave them a true way to naturally come out, as opposed to what these two stories now are doing. I will say that with this other urban fantasy story I had going for a while, I was doing research on, I was going to be building. I think that story is going to be completely shelved. I don't think I'm ever going to work on that because I feel like right now I am not the person to write high fantasy, because I feel like right now I am not a person that is able to write fantasy. I feel like I love fantasy, don't get me wrong. Fantasy is one of my most favorite reading genres. I talk about it all the freaking time. But I think that for right now, where my writing lies is more contemporary based. I feel like I do better with setting myself up in more realistic scenarios, and then adding in elements of things that, you know, may have mystical elements like this, like Project Mummy is. But I have to take baby steps. I feel like I cannot put myself in an urban fantasy or a high fantasy even, because those take so much time. Like, it's almost like I have to keep leveling up in the game before I get to the boss level that is a fantasy story. And if I don't go through the steps of leveling up, I'm going to set myself up for failure. And I think that by doing it that way, it gives me a better chance to learn about my process, learn about how I construct a story, and then also continuously doing more research on, you know, things about fantasy. I can understand better about how worlds are built. And by doing the baby steps and doing the groundwork of those baby steps of learning about, especially with Project Mummy, how to bring about a reason as to why this antagonist comes back from the dead to wreak havoc on the world, you know, talking about that magical element, that mystical element that's played in very subtly into the story. Well, not subtly, since it's a pretty big event, but the kind of subtle nature of throwing that into an otherwise contemporary story, that is going to help me with building up the blocks that I need to continue to build up to working on a fantasy novel further down the line, or a fantasy story further down the line, whether that's a full-on novel or a novella or short story or something along those lines. I also don't truly know whether or not I want to write novels the entire time. I feel like I've always had my mind set on this idea of the novel, and I feel like I've never had a good experience writing short stories. But I feel like, truthfully, that's because I never gave myself the chance. I always thought that in order to do well, I needed to stay inside that box. And one of the ways that I was in that box was saying, I have to write full-length novels. That is all I can write. I can't write anything else. And that's, I think, a big reason why my poetry collection never basically went off the ground, because I had this grand idea of building a poetry collection about women in my life that somehow changed it or influenced my life, which included like my mom, my sister, my grandmothers, people that used to be friends of mine, ex-friends, my best friends now, cousins, you know, women, basically mentors, women that changed my life in different ways for good or for bad. And that never came to light because I truly felt like I was never a good enough poet. And it's not that I'm not a good enough poet, it's that I never gave myself really the ability to spread my wings with that and grow as a writer and continuously practice with it. Because a huge thing with poetry is practicing the craft and understanding how your crafting works within what is, I guess, the confines of poetry. It's not even really confines, it's that you have to find your voice within all of that and then find a way to tell that story in the most effective way through something like a poem. The issue I've always had is this idea of feeling like I'm never going to do enough and I'm never good enough to do certain things, so I don't give myself that ability to manifest what I want on the page. I feel like I've always been someone, like I said, in that box where if I don't hold myself to a particular standard, I am never going to feel like things are good enough. And I feel like, especially with my writing, I can't do that, because if I don't believe in myself when it comes to my writing, how is somebody else going to believe in that? Hey guys, so it is now Thursday. It is about 6:10 in the evening. Robert and Ryan are out going to get food right now. Ryan basically had said that for my birthday he wanted to buy us B-dubs for my birthday because I love B-dubs, but unfortunately Robert and I needed to use one of our HelloFresh meals we've been using because we hadn't really cooked from it in like a while and we needed to use up the ingredients because they were going to go bad. So we did that last night, and so tonight instead we're getting B-dubs for my late birthday. I have been doing a lot of reading of Crazy Rich Asians today. I ended up only actually reading a little bit last night, about 10 pages, because I came up on the second part and I didn't want to get further into the book because I knew that if I did last night and got into like part 2, I probably would have forgotten some stuff. So I figured I'd hold off on part 2 until today. And so far today, I have read about over 40 pages at the very least. I think like 44 pages or so. Part 2 is getting to be kind of the point where Rachel has finally actually met Nick's family. Like, she's meeting a lot of his family at one time. They're at this really big party right now. My thoughts on this book haven't really changed. It's very fun. It is very interesting to look at the whole dynamic of the elite in Singapore and all these things, and I feel like it's still very focused on the satire, and I feel like that's a huge thing going with the story. Is it, absolutely spectacular though? Not necessarily, but I think that it is unique enough from what I have read of like adult contemporary in the past, to where I think it definitely does make its own stance and it stands apart from other adult contemporaries. And especially with this being kind of on a lighter side of satire, it definitely feels approachable. It doesn't feel like it's a satire that's very hard to grasp, kind of like how George Orwell's Animal Farm is. Or even possibly 1984. I feel like those are a little bit harder, but those are also like written a long time ago, so they're a little bit less accessible, I think, to a lot of people now. But Crazy Rich Asians, I think, is one of those satires where it's very accessible because we all are obsessed in society with what exactly the rich and famous do, and the elite, and why they do certain things, and kind of the unnecessary things that they do with each other, and how gossip spreads really easily, especially within the elite and within the wealthy. And it's just a very interesting look at this kind of a perspective from a non-American standpoint too, because it kind of lends the idea that, this happens kind of pretty much everywhere. Just because it's a different country doesn't mean it doesn't happen the same way as like any other place, pretty much, which I think is very interesting. I think that it kind of just lends back to the idea of like the rich and famous are just as petty and ridiculous as anybody else. They just have the money that they can flaunt, and they have the ability to flaunt that wealth a lot better than a lot of other people are. But pretty exciting. I do plan on reading a little bit more of it tonight, but right now I am working on getting my vlog from last week that I had before I went on vacation rendered right now, so I can edit it after I eat dinner. And then after I edit that, I'm going to upload it to YouTube, and that should be up sometime tonight. By the time you guys are watching this vlog, it'll be up on by like Thursday night, I think. And then I'm going to sit and play Animal Crossing, I think, for a little bit. I want to play with that update that just happened because I spent a lot of last night playing Stardew Valley, and I didn't really spend a lot of time playing Animal Crossing, so I kind of want to do that. And then I think by the time I get ready to go to bed, I'll be wanting to get back into this one. Okay, it is 20 after 10, I mean, in the evening here on Friday night. Today I had a pretty chill work day. I had a very busy day though, because besides work, I was in communication with like so many different people about different things for the wedding and stuff. I got pretty much all of our spa stuff booked for the second to last day before the wedding. I also got my floral bouquet stuff, like all the flowers that we're going to be making, like bouquets and stuff for the wedding, that all booked for that same day. And then I was talking to my bridesmaids and my maid of honor about like everything going on, being like, hey, there's these different things I need you guys to answer for me in regards to like the spa stuff more so. So that was pretty interesting. And so today I did actually do quite a bit of reading. I am planning on going into bed here really quick in a minute to continue reading. But as of right now, I'm on page 254. I am on chapter 10 of part 2. Truthfully, where I'm at now, I think just under halfway done. I'm at like 48% according to Goodreads, I think. This is getting to be, I think, one of my more favorite books so far. I still don't think it's really a 5-star for me at this point, but I do think it is actually one of my more favorites so far this year. I just really like a lot of what the story has going for it. I just don't think necessarily it's like completely blowing me away. Like, it's not giving me like that absolute needs a 5-star kind of feeling. But I really, really like this book a lot. I really like a lot of what's going for it. I think that it's so very different from everything I've seen before, and I've said the same thing like 5 million different times already, so I'm not going to say any more, but Yeah, if you really guys haven't really read Crazy Rich Asians and you are looking into it, definitely do it. I feel like it's a really interesting story, and I also think that even though it seems kind of, surface level in a lot of ways and just kind of talking about, the wealthy, it's so much more nuanced than that. Like, it discusses a lot of different things about people in general, and more so about people who are wealthy and how they all experience the same things that we as like middle class or lower class individuals deal with, because they're still real people. They just experience things on a little bit of a different level than we do. Like, there is a lot of talk about stepping out on partners and, money issues and feeling like you're not good enough because you don't fit a certain mold, or trying to protect family because you don't know what other people's intentions are, kinds of things like that. There's even a lot about selfishness and how some of these characters are incredibly selfish. There is one character, though, I will say, that I have found to absolutely disdain, because he's just an awful human being in general. You come very quickly to learn, and I do not understand why any of the guys involved with him are friends with him, and that's Bernard. Bernard, who is one of Colin and Nick's friends, quote unquote, he's an asshole. And I don't know how any of those people involved in Colin's wedding have anything to do with him. He's just a bad dude in general, but because he's like part of that affluent family, and he is like connected to all these different other affluent families, they kind of have to deal with him. But I feel like he's just so much of an asshole and nobody really likes him. I have not done any writing today. I was going to sit and write for a while today, but I haven't really been inspired. And I feel like this is a project, like I said before, where if I'm not inspired to write a scene, I don't want to force myself to write it. I'm just kind of doing prep work really for this book, and I just want to get some kind of core scenes down. I have kind of a scene in my head that I want to write on, but it's not fully fermented as of yet, and I feel like I need more time to kind of solidify it. So maybe either tomorrow or Sunday I may work on it, because it's more fermented in my head than it was last week, but it's not 100%. So I think either tomorrow or Sunday I may get back to working on this book and working on another scene with my main character that goes into a little bit about her family dynamics, because it's a scene where like we really kind of understand the main character's family dynamics and why exactly she is tied to the antagonist in a certain way. But we don't know what that tie is until very much later in the story, but we understand that in the beginning of the story there are some family dynamics that are not healthy that play a role into how this character is. Oh, also, I forgot to mention, I did start a new audiobook today, and that is So You Want to Talk About Race by Iwajima Olu. I think that's how you pronounce her name. I'm sorry if I really butchered that. I'm not super familiar with African names. But yeah, this is another nonfiction story that discusses like race, and especially in terms of various different things regarding U.S. society, like money, education, mass incarceration, those things of that nature. It's similar to Michelle Alexander's The New Jim Crow, and is actually referenced briefly in one of the chapters, but it goes more general as opposed to so very centered in like The New Jim Crow is. The New Jim Crow focuses pretty much mostly on mass incarceration and the many facets that involve in mass incarceration. But So Let's Talk About Race is more of like a general, this is why the world is the way it is, and this is why we live in a world that we live in now, because it's so very focused on race within so many other different things. Like race is a huge factor in a lot of things, from like what kind of job you get to how people perceive you, and how poverty, especially in a lot of areas, is kind of systematically done to where African American families are more likely to be under the poverty line, things of that nature. It's really good. I'm a little over halfway done with it already. It's only like 7 hours or so long, so it's not very long at all. And I really like it a lot. I feel like this one has opened my eyes in a little bit of a different way than The New Jim Crow did. The New Jim Crow made me really angry with a lot of the history of mass incarceration and how exactly it came to be that a lot of African Americans have been in prison for so long, and how they've been wrongfully put in prison, or they've been sentenced because of various things regarding their race, and how the police are just, it's proven to me now, even more so than before, that the Black Lives Matter movement is really, really important, and why it's kind of a thing. So let's talk about race. It opens my eyes in a little bit of a different way, because it expands my mind a little bit more on some of the more nuanced things in society that I didn't know about before, like how African American people it's harder for them to get mortgages for homes or anything like that, and harder for them to get like bank loans, and pretty much just be even able to live in general, as opposed to living as a white person. So let's talk about race. It makes me more sad and angry, whereas the new Jim Crow just really made me angry in general. So highly recommend both of them, though, if you are looking to understand more about what exactly is the reasons why things like the Black Lives Matter movement are happening, and why Black people are angry with the way that our society is. Both of these books outline various reasons, and a lot of the same reasons in both are portrayed as to why they are so angry, and they rightfully are, because Black people get the shit end of the stick in this country. And not just them. Latinos and other people of color also get the shit end of the stick in a lot of ways. And unfortunately, it's just, if you're not white in the US, you're kind of fucked. And both of these books really explain how and why that is. So good for those of you that are looking to look at things in a more sociological sense and actually learn something. And it's really good for those of you that are looking to understand the conversation of race a little bit more, because race is a very important thing in our society. It's a very big factor in a lot of ways, and both of these books make you understand that even more, that if you are white especially, you've got it pretty good, and you should be more aware of the issues in our society when it comes to how people of color are treated, and you should do something about it. So, good resources. Hey guys, so it is going on about 3 o'clock right now in the afternoon on Saturday, and I just got done with hanging out with my mom and sister for the day. We went around, did a little bit of shopping and stuff. I went to Barnes & Noble too, because we just kind of wanted to go around and do a little bit of shopping in town, and I also gave them their presents that I got for them while on vacation. But the two books I got at Barnes & Noble were, one, Fountains of Peace by Ruta Sepetys. This is Ruta's newest book. Just got released here earlier this year, and I want a copy of it, and I did get a signed edition of it, which I haven't even looked at as of yet, so I'm gonna open this up and show you guys. Ooh, okay, so they did implement like a pass page, or like, they implemented a page in it, so there's a signature. And let's see what this baby looks like naked. Okay, so it's just like red with a gold on the spine, which that's very pretty. I do like that a lot. I finally found a copy of Felix Ever After by Case and Callender as well. I've been searching for this for weeks now, and my Barnes & Noble didn't have it for God knows how long, and I found the only copy they had in the store today, so that made me super, super happy. So I made sure to get this one, because this one was one of my most anticipated, like, trans non-binary author books. Like, I really wanted to try to get my hands on this soon so I could actually have it. So I did add this one to my little random draw thing here. So I'm going to add this to that stack back there, and I'm going to put this one over on this little shelf by me so that I can go to shelve that later once I've gone through my books that I want to this month. So then as far as what I have planned for the rest of the day, I did my filming before my mom and sister got here, so that's why I still have makeup on and all that stuff. I have to just transfer all the footage and stuff that I have currently, and then I'm going to, I think, sit and make a list of guests that I want for my bachelorette party, just so that I have a pretty good idea of how many people I want to be there, so I can send that off to my maid of honor. And then I think I'm going to just sit and read Crazy Rich Asians for a while. I kind of am in a mood where I just want to sit and read for a while. So this morning I'm testing out some different glasses. These aren't really prescription by any means. These just have like the blue light blocking lenses, and I really wanted to see what I would think of them since I need to wait to get my eyes actually checked again to get new glasses, but I figured if I could try out wearing blue lens glasses and seeing if that helps with any like eye strain. But I think I'm kind of just doing myself a disservice because these aren't my prescription, so I have to like kind of squint sometimes to see what's on my laptop. I mean, I know for, a general idea of like what to see, but I can't read like some of the writing, but I know what it is because I know my program enough to where like I know what it's telling me. I just feel like it's not going to help a lot, but they do look really cute. I do like these frames a lot, but it doesn't also help that because we've been getting storms here, I've already had like a headache going on for the last like almost a day, so probably not the smartest idea to have gotten these. I probably should have just waited, but they look cute at least. Or, maybe at the very least, if I get contacts again, I can throw these on and, hopefully that'll help. Hi friends, it's going on about 20 to 4 in the afternoon right now. Today's not been the best day. I think I've had, like I said earlier today, a headache off and on all day today. It's finally now gone away, like I think for good, for the day at least. But yeah, so I did edit all of my videos for this week except for this vlog. I will be editing that probably tonight or so. I've mostly today, like after I finished editing, I just kind of laid down on the other couch out here and watched YouTube videos because my eyes were really hurting, which doesn't happen often, but I tend to get a lot of pressure headaches, especially like in times where there's like storms, but normally I get them before the storms hit. I usually get a headache leading up to a storm that happens, but there was a storm that happened here, I think like Thursday, and I just, starting about later last night going into today, finally had a headache, but we also are supposed to be getting storms again sometime this next week. But yeah, it's weird. Like I had like a delayed reaction to it, whereas most times I usually get a headache right beforehand. I think right now because my head is actually feeling better, I'm gonna sit and read more of Crazy Rich Asians. I read about 48 pages of it yesterday. I think about halfway through it, and so what I want to do, I'm on page 310, so I am over halfway through it at this point. My goal for tonight is I want to get to about page 400, and I do need to sit and plan out my week coming up, so I think once I get to my page goal for that, I'm going to sit down and plan out my week for next week because I have a normal work week this coming week. I only vlogged basically from Wednesday because I was on my trip Monday and Tuesday, so I didn't work, but then I worked Wednesday through Friday, and so tomorrow starts up a normal work schedule again, and we have a lot of stuff going on, so I have just a lot of work coming in here in the next week or so, I think. And my writing project's kind of at a standstill because like I'm still working through this idea for a scene, but I think tomorrow is the day I'm gonna actually work on writing it because I'm just not in the mood to write right now. But I think tomorrow is when I'm gonna actually write this next scene I have in mind, which is gonna be fairly extensive. I think it's gonna be something that is like, it's going to be probably a later scene, but I need to like at least write some stuff down about my main character and like her family issues. Like I don't know where it's gonna go or what it's really gonna like, how it's gonna get split up throughout the story, but I kind of want to write down like a scene that dictates kind of like a memory of her growing up, because it is really, really important in terms of understanding the main character and how she has a connection to the antagonist of the story. I've talked about this scene a couple different times, but I actually have now, like, I'm a little bit more of a formalized idea of it in my head, but I'm not really feeling the mood to write today, so I think I'm going to schedule that off for tomorrow after I finish work. Like, after I get done with work, I'm going to sit and write for a while, probably about an hour, and just kind of crank out this whole scene and see what I do with it, because it's not going to be like one big scene that's going to go like in the beginning of the book. It's like, okay, here's like kind of like a backstory kind of thing that I don't know where it's going to go, but it's going to be somehow involved, whether it's the character relays the story to the antagonist, or if it's going to be kind of more of a exposition like thing that gets sprinkled out through the book. I'm not really 100% certain I truly don't even know what's going on with this project. I'm kind of at a point where I just like don't even know. I feel like I can't really write this until I feel like I have done my research on it. So I feel like this is going to be kind of a fail for Camp NaNoWriMo, but I at least got a really nice scene written for like the beginning of the book, and I have a small prologue that kind of opens up the book that, you know, gives enough to where it's like, oh, now I want to know what's going on with the story. But that's basically it. Like, I've only written about 1,000 words worth, just under, so probably not gonna hit my 10,000 word mark. But I do have a scene in mind that I have for my antagonist that I think I could write, regardless of not having done the research on it, because it's a pretty well-known scene that I think people would be like, oh, I know what this is referencing, or I know like what this is supposed to like reflect, kind of thing. So I don't know, maybe tomorrow I'll write on a couple different scenes, because now that I'm thinking about it, I think I could do another one that I think would be fairly fleshed out, at least for my antagonist, because I haven't really written anything for the antagonist side of it as of yet. And the scene I'm thinking of for that particular character, it's very important in discussing kind of how she became the person she is. So yeah. We'll see how that goes, but I'm going to push that all off till Monday at the very least, because I just don't feel like in the mood to write at the moment. Okay guys, so it's about 10 after 10 at night, and I'm going to end this vlog here. I have reached page 427 of Crazy Rich Asians. I have about 100 pages left of it, and I think I'm going to shove this off to finish tomorrow. I have read actually over 100 pages today, which that is the most I have read in a day in a very long time. So I'm very proud of myself. I ended up reading quite a bit before I ended up making dinner, after I finished watching my YouTube videos and, you know, kind of just did stuff. I also made my first pork burger today all by myself and made it perfect, which was a huge accomplishment for me. I've never made a burger by itself, like a beef burger before. Like, I've never cooked it myself on the stove. And today the HelloFresh meal we had was a pork burger with like Gouda and like caramelized onions and stuff like that. And I did it all by myself. I did it perfectly, and I was so proud of myself. So yay for developing cooking skills. But today I started on page 310 and ended up, like I said, on page 427. So I read over 100 pages today. Very proud of myself. I almost like I'm having like visceral reactions to some of the shit that's going on in this, because a lot of the things that are happening are completely unnecessary to like how people are treating Rachel. Like, I truly have like this protective nature now over Rachel and Nick, because like they're just trying to be happy, and everyone is like attacking Rachel for the fact that she's not, you know, from Singapore and she's not from a wealthy family, and like they're judging her, and people are like actually like sending her messages of like, you need to stop seeing him because you're not good enough for him and all this stuff. And I'm getting so angry because Rachel's a sweetheart. I adore her. She's funny and she's incredibly intelligent, and Nick obviously loves her so much that I'm like, you motherfucking bitches need to learn your place. He doesn't give a shit about any of your opinions, and he's gonna love whoever the fuck he wants, so y'all have to get fucking over it. And like, I just truthfully, like, I keep like these moments that happen toward Rachel where like people are attacking her or making snide comments about her, and like she's picking up on it. I get this like little fire going in my chest where I just want to scream and yell at these people to leave her alone and to let her be fucking happy. I don't usually have that kind of reaction to many characters that I first meet in like new books or anything. It usually takes me a while for that to happen, but from like the very beginning of Rachel being in Singapore, and even before she got into Singapore, when Nick's mother started trying to dig into her past, I felt very protective of Rachel. Like, I loved her immediately. So that is, I think, a huge plus for this series, is that I'm gonna feel very protective of Rachel the entire time, which is definitely the intent. You want to, you know, root for Rachel and Nick and hope that things turn out well for them. But there's this whole thing about Rachel's past that comes up that like is never really explained, that I don't know if it's gonna get explained in this one. I feel like it's some kind of a secret that's gonna, you know, hold over into books 2 and 3. I don't know though, because we've already at this point reached the big wedding that was leading up in the story of Nick's friend. Nick's friend has just gotten married. They're going through like the evening part of the wedding day kind of thing, like the reception, and then there's like this big party afterward that goes late into the night that is like this big event. Truthfully, I don't know if whatever it is that Eleanor found out about Rachel's past is going to be revealed in the last 100 pages of this book. I feel like it might be something that is either a bombshell at the very end of the book, or it's gonna be pushed off to be revealed until maybe book 2. I truly don't know. I'm actually curious. I think I would prefer it if maybe it was a bit of a bombshell and like ends off book 1 like this. But I also wonder if it might be better for it to not be picked up entirely until book 2, to kind of add this air of mystery about it. And because they don't really ever go into what exactly this thing is. So, I don't know. I'm interested. I think this is slowly making its way closer to a 5-star, but it's going to be, I think, ending up being more like a 4.5. But I will say that I will be picking up the other 2 books in the series. Like, when I can next go to like the bookstore or something like that, which probably could be soon. I know that both of these books are on sale at Target in particular. I think I'm going to grab them both because I really would like to see how the rest of the series goes. But anyway, that is going to be all for this vlog. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to give this video a thumbs up. And if you haven't already and you'd like to be, hit the button down below and subscribe to become an owlet in our flock. And I will see all of you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.